Now we're going to have a bit of a look at what is grabbing headlines here in France. It is all, of course, about the man of the hour, Sepp Blatter, the man who has been at the helm of FIFA for the past 17 years, announcing that he is calling it quits. That's the big phrase, isn't it, Flo?
It's the big phrase. It's such a big story today. It's so surprising because, of course, he was reelected on Friday. Now, Sepp Blatter, of course, very controversial figure, not always well-liked, and I must say there's kind of a feeling of relief in a lot of French papers. Let's start by looking at the front page of 20 Minutes today. They seem pretty excited about it. You can see they're saying, "Au revoir, président," goodbye, president, with an exclamation mark at the end. And Le Figaro as well, saying that Blatter, he's throwing the towel in and calling for new elections. So as I said, quite a lot of relief in the French press so far.
Of course, the question that everyone wants answered is, why did he decide to resign? I'm not going to ask you directly, Flo, but what do the papers think?
Well, it's interesting. It's really the million-dollar question, and in many ways, your guess is as good as mine. L'Équipe, it's the main sports daily here. Let's take a look at what they're saying. You can see on their front page, they have this one word, acculé. Acculé means cornered. According to L'Équipe, Blatter essentially found himself with his back against the wall, and on their front page, they actually quote this article we've been talking a lot about from the New York Times that says that essentially this FBI investigation into FIFA corruption has been extended to Blatter. Essentially, U.S. officials are hoping to win the cooperation of some of these FIFA officials who were indicted to essentially work their way through the organization all the way to the top. And L'Équipe says, essentially, that Blatter felt threatened by this, and this is what has led him to resign.
Some might say it's a little bit strange, though. I mean, only a couple of days ago, Blatter was saying resigning would mean he had something to feel guilty about.
That's right. And if we take a look inside L'Équipe, they also point out that his departure really is quite mysterious and in many ways open to all sorts of interpretation. On the one hand, perhaps a lot of people are saying, as I said, that he's realizing that this FBI investigation is very serious. It could threaten him. L'Équipe also says that another scenario is that essentially he decided to make a gentlemanly exit. Let's take a look, though, at SoFoot. SoFoot is a monthly magazine specifically focused on football, as you can imagine. They promised the real reasons for his departure. Now, it's, I must say, quite a silly article. Some fact, mainly fiction. They offer their own explanations for his departure, one of them being divine intervention. They say that perhaps Sepp Blatter was visited by God in the middle of the night. God told him to put football first for once, and so he decided to resign. Or another one I like is that he spent a lot of time on social media in the last couple of weeks and saw all this criticism and calls for him to step down, all these trolls online insulting him, and he basically decided to be the ultimate troll, to be reelected and then to resign, because that would really be the ultimate troll for everyone.
I'm sure they're both real, true reasons. Another big man in the moment is a former US soccer official who was key in gathering information on FIFA.
That's right. We've been hearing a lot about him. Chuck Blazer. You can read about him in Le Figaro. They have a very interesting profile on the taupe, the mole, if you will, who really who really brought FIFA down, if you will. What's interesting about Chuck Blazer is he started out being a kiddie soccer coach in New York, and then he really moved his way up the ranks and became a big wig in football in the United States. He became the general secretary of FIFA's Confederation of North, Central American, and Caribbean Association Football, and at that time he was really living the high life. He had a private jet, he had swanky apartments, including one in the Trump Tower in New York City for his cats. He also had all sorts of offshore bank accounts, money laundering, tax evasion. Essentially, the law caught up with him, and to avoid going to jail, he became an informant for the FBI, and he managed to really record secretly all sorts of conversations with FIFA executives by wearing a wire, essentially. It's a very fascinating story. If you want to know just how he really helped the FBI in their investigation, you can check it out in the Figaro.
What next then, Flo?
Well, that's the big question. What is next? What is next for FIFA? Some papers are quite hopeful. They say that it could be a new dawn for football in general. Now, in the short one, what's interesting is that Sepp Blatter has vowed to carry out deep reform before his successor is chosen. His successor will be chosen in the next 6 to 9 months. Who will that successor be? Well, Le Parisien has their money on Michel Platini, maybe because he's a famous French football star, but also because he has a pretty good chance, according to Le Parisien. He's currently the president of the Union of European Football Associations. He really led the revolt in many ways against Sepp Blatter. And so you can see here Le Parisien saying, c'est l'heure de Michel Platini. It's really his time to shine. He's a good candidate, except for one thing, according to Le Parisien, and that's that he doesn't speak very good English. And also, he's going to face a fierce challenge from Prince Ali bin Al Hussein, the man who was running against Sepp Blatter in Friday's election and who's vowed to run again.
And what about these future World Cups, Flo? I mean, is anything going to change there?
Well, that's one thing that a lot of papers are wondering. L'Équipe, if we go back to that paper, they wonder, do Russia and Qatar have anything to worry about? Now, Greg Dyke, he's the English Football Association's chairman. He has called for an investigation into the awarding of the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. Now, L'Équipe says that the delay for the 2018 World Cup in Russia is a little short, so the World Cup should go on in Russia, but things are very different for Qatar, according to L'Équipe. L'Équipe actually says that the 2022 World Cup is looking more and more unrealistic, not to mention, of course, the controversy that's surrounding the conditions on the construction sites in Qatar. All this has really put their hosting of the 2022 World Cup at risk.
Fascinating, isn't it? It's all going to be fascinating seeing what happens over the next few years. Flo, thanks a lot. Summing all the latest on that FIFA scandal up for us in the French newspapers. Coming up for you right after the break, we'll have the very latest on FIFA, of course. And Greenpeace in India says it is going to die. The organisation, nearly 9,000 NGOs who have had their bank accounts blocked. Critics saying because they dared to oppose the economic agenda of Narendra Modi. We've got a special report coming up for you in Focus. It's in the next half hour here on France 24, so don't go away.